Welcome to the Contrarians and to yet another Dark Horse album episode. Tonight's victim, Pink Floyd, A Momentary Lapse of Reason from 1987. Is this a Dark Horse record? Well, we'll check with the panel and we'll get back to you. So without any further ado, let's get started. Welcome to the Contrarians, and tonight we have another Dark Horse episode. I feel that we haven't had one of these in a while, but, my concept of time's all, questionable. We probably just had one of these, but I don't remember doing one since last month. So we're looking at 1987's Momentary Lapse of Reason. Now, we've got a panel here. We've got Butch, we've got Rich, we've got Tom. Rand should be here, but Rand was frozen in time. And maybe he'll be back. I don't know what was going on with Rand, but it doesn't matter. I've got these gentlemen here, and we're going to talk Momentary Lapse of Reason. So what we're going to do, we're just going to go around the loop, round the horn, and talk about this record. And I want to give your rating out of 10 at the end. So we will determine if this is a Dark Horse record in the catalog. I don't know. Let's see what the panel says. And I think I'm just going to go the way I see it. I'm just going to go clockwise. So I'm going to go Tom, Rich, Butch, and then we'll loop around with me. So, Tom, it's nice to see you. I just saw you yesterday.
Yes.
And I saw Butch yesterday. So it feels like I don't know what I'm trying to go for, but
this is like deja vu all over again.
Like deja vu. So anyway, gentlemen, I want to welcome the whole panel here. But let's start off with Tom. Tom, give me your, we have to do this within an hour. So
okay. I'll keep it moving. I'll keep it moving.
Cool. Thank you.
So I know that I'll start off with, I think this record was kicked off with 5 words from Roger Waters.
Oh God, here we go.
And you will. I don't want to curse, but it was, "You'll never effing do it." And that's what I understand was said by Roger that really got David Gilmour going and really said, "Oh, really?" And when he said, "You'll never do it," I thought about that and I said, "We'll never do it." Okay, never do it. Hadn't this already happened?
But that's a solo record though.
Right. But just, and this had already happened as well. So,
right.
But I like both of these records, by the way. So you might know where I'm going with this.
I know where you're going.
But never do it, making you'll never make a record. Well, he's already made records. So meaning, you read into it further and you say, okay, you don't have, what I read into that was you don't have the balls to continue Pink Floyd without me, basically.
That's what he meant, yeah.
I think that's what he meant.
No doubt.
Yeah. I think that's what he was getting at. So in other words, he knew that David was a talented fellow and could play great guitar and was a great singer. Mm-hmm. But carrying Pink Floyd mantle on your shoulders is not an easy task. As he came to find out while making this record. So we talked about Bob Ezrin. It came up in conversation last night. Here he is again. So Roger reaches out to Bob Ezrin to help him with Radio Chaos, from what I understand. He had already done Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking, and he reaches out to Ezrin to help him with the next record. And Ezrin's like, "Oh yeah, it'll be so great to get back together with you. The Wall was so awesome, and oh yeah, let's reunite. Let's do this." And Roger's like, "Okay, well, great. You can come to England and you can hang out with me, and there'll be 6 months, and I'll put you up in." And he's like, "Oh, whoa, time out. I can't do that. I got a wife and kids. I can't spend that much time in England. I need help. I need you. Maybe we could split this." And Roger's like, "No, we can't. No, this is what's going to happen. You got to come to me." And so then he's like, "Well, so he spent all this time convincing his wife that, "Oh, I got to work with Roger Waters again. This would be so great." And then basically after he finally convinces his wife, then his wife comes to him and says, "I can't do it. We can't do this." Next call he gets is from David Gilmour, literally within 2 weeks or something. David Gilmour calls him and says, "Hey, we're going to relaunch Pink Floyd. Can you help me make a record?" And so Ezrin, and in this case, he says, "Ezrin, it's okay. I understand I'm a family man. You're a family man. We can work this out. We'll do 50-50. So made it much easier on Ezrin. So Ezrin goes to Gilmour and says, "Okay, let's do this." And I think he had a big hand in Momentary Lapse of Reason, for sure, the way it sounds. He got co-writing credit on a few things. So anyway, I'll get to the point. So is this a?
No, you're good. Tom, you do it. You're fine. Don't worry.
All right. I just don't want to go on and on. But
you're good.
This is, what's the deal here? I mean, is this a conscious effort? Is this a conscious effort to sound like Pink Floyd? Definitely. I mean, he is. The first side is a lot of he's collaborating with a lot of people. There's Phil Manzanera from Roxy Music on One Slip, which I love. I love One Slip. And he's got people writing lyrics for him. Dogs of War, Learning to Fly is a good single. And I honestly, I like the second side quite a bit. I mean, and this is to me is where he went to CBS and they had a lunch meeting or something, and they brought some songs to the guy, and he's like, "This sounds nothing like Pink Floyd. You got to make it sound like Pink Floyd." So he definitely went back and had to make it a little spacier, or whatever you want to call it, a little different, more like Adam Hart Mother. I don't know what. Who knows? But this album definitely is not edgy. I mean, there's where Roger's missing. There's no edge to this album. He's hard to have edge, but it's not there, in my opinion. But it's certainly pleasant. It's a pleasant listen. I love listening to this. I mean, I listened to it on the way home today, my long commute home from work, and it was a pleasant listen. Gilmour sounds great. His voice sounds really good. He's ripping solos. I mean, it's a good sounding. It's funny because they remixed this record, and honestly, I don't really have a problem with the 80s production. I mean, maybe it's just this came out in high school for me, and it's just like I just have nostalgia for this record. But when they remixed it, I was like, I kind of want more reverb. Where is it? Like it didn't sound right to me. So anyway, bottom line is I enjoy this record. I do miss Roger's conceptual thought process and his awesome words. Of course I miss that. I mean, it's like Lennon and McCartney. It's like one of them's missing. It's like listening to a Beatles solo record a little bit with a lot of help from other people. He's almost like the McCartney. I always think of Gilmour's almost like the McCartney, and Waters is the Lennon kind of vibe. And maybe, that maybe kind of works, but yeah, there's definitely like you're missing. The heart is there, but the thinking part is not quite as much there on this record. And also Rick Wright is missing, right? So I mean, I always say this is a more convincing Pink Floyd record than this one, because Rick Wright is here from the very start, and this one starts out with jams in the studio. So this one actually, for me, is a little more convincing as a Pink Floyd record than this one. But I still enjoy this quite a bit. So
I thought Richard Wright was playing on this record, though.
He is, but he comes in at the very end. It's like at the end of the record, he comes in and does some Hammond organ and a couple of overdubs, and that's about it. It's already well underway by the time he comes in.
Gotcha.
He was listed as a guest on the record too, instead of like a regular member, right?
This is a whole other topic. Yeah. We had Roger Waters fire him basically. Why didn't David Gilmour on this record say, "You know what, Richard, you're back in"?
I agree.
What's the story behind that? Does anybody know?
I think it's because of how Rick Wright was during the album The Wall, that he wasn't really contributing much. Mm-hmm. So I think that maybe David Gilmour wasn't really sure of how much commitment Rick Wright was going to put into it, because and I just want to say one more thing. I think it's funny how, like, on the remastered version, how they insert the picture of Richard Wright in there. Version, it's just David Gilmour and Nick Mason, and then they,
that's the original right there.
Right. Yeah, and then I have the remastered, which, let me get it out here.
Well, think about this, gentlemen. You get rid of Richard Wright, even though Roger Waters is out of the picture, and then you've got Nick Mason and David Gilmour, a tag team at this point. There's more money for them to enjoy.
Obviously, I think it was a money thing too, because I think that Mason and Gilmour also put up the money to make this. Put up a lot of money apparently to make this record. So,
but there he is, right in there with everybody. Look at that.
That's so revisionist. That's completely revisionist.
But the fans love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was gonna say that his name is in smaller font on on the
Is
CD.
it really?
It's a smaller font, yeah. So, but anyway, but yeah, I agree with you. It's really kind of strange that they didn't. I make him just a full on part. I don't know. I don't know. Who knows why? But
it's probably so deep and so complicated.
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
I think that Roger had spoiled Gilmore on Wright. That Roger had ripped on Richard Wright so much and basically said he's useless, he stinks, he's a coke addict, whatever. And Gilmore became kind of poisoned by that.
Maybe.
So because they became great friends after this wreck, the tour and making Division Bell apparently was all like they were like bros again. So, yeah. Anyway. But yeah, I would say giving it a rating, I'd give it a 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. Well, to be quite honest, that's not bad. We've done these before, these Dark Horse episodes, and 6 out of 10, I accept that. That's
I mean, it's not good. It's not a classic, but it's good. I like it. I'll listen to it.
But I'm just going to ask you, Tom. Do you think 6 out of 10 though? Do you think that this had? Oh, how do I want to put it? Do you think that this record was forced? I mean, were they really trying to make something stick? I mean, do you think that that David Gilmour and Nick were their hearts into this, or was this like a record company going, you know what, it'd be nice to have another record?
I think that's a good question, Grant. I would say that Steve O'Rourke, the manager, really wanted this bad.
Okay.
I mean, you'd say Pink Floyd, they're thinking cha-ching, money, money, money. So, right. So Steve O'Rourke was like, Dave, go for it. I got your back, man. Mason was dying to do it. He went to a Roger Waters show, and there's a quote that he said something about, I felt weird that I wasn't playing these songs. He started playing some Pink Floyd songs, and he said, I felt really strange not playing, and he didn't get invited on stage or anything. So he was kind of upset about after that show.
Right.
So Mason really wanted to do it. Steve O'Rourke was dying to do it. The record company, like you said, I'm sure was like, oh yeah. I think the person who was the most reticent was David. I think he was like, oh God, like this is a lot to take on. I think at first he kept saying this might be a solo album, this might be a solo record. I'm not sure. This could be Pink Floyd, could be a solo record. He was really like waffling because he knew it was a lot to take on, and it made him nervous. And then you got Roger Waters on the sidelines just throwing grenades at you and having lawyers call you. And so, I mean, it was a pretty stressful time from what I understand.
Right.
So
there you go. I don't know. But a 6 out of 10, not bad.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Tom. That is awesome. Let's throw it over to Rich. Rich, for God's sakes, what's your thoughts on this record?
Well, I did not like it when it first came out. It was almost like they were trying too hard to sound like Pink Floyd, and I really didn't like the lead, the single from it, "Learning to Fly" or something. I think that's the name of it. I don't know. I just wasn't too impressed with it, and I mean, I think that Dave Gilmour had every right to continue on with the Pink Floyd name.
Yeah.
But it was later found out that Nick Mason hardly plays on the album at all. That his contribution musically was quite minimal. So it's really kind of like Dave Gilmour's version of Pink Floyd. So
what do you look at this more of a David Gilmour solo album as opposed to a Pink Floyd project? Then
I don't know.
That's what it looks like.
I mean, maybe it's a Dave Gilmour project disguised as a Pink Floyd album because they thought they would sell more records that way.
Of course.
I don't like it as I know the Final Cut is an album that gets kind of not treated very nicely, but I like the Final Cut better than this album. I thought the Final Cut was actually, even though I think it was like side 3 of The Wall, like it was, the Final Cut was like the most depressing parts of The Wall, which was basically side 3, spread out for an entire album. But I still think it's a good album. I like it better than I think a lot of people do. I think the songs on it were really good. David Gilmour has a lot of great solos on it. I think what was missing really other than the title "Get Your Filthy Hands Off My Desert," is a sense of humor, because I think The Wall had a sense of humor to it. And
I agree with that. Yeah.
I think that Roger Waters had a really good sense of humor. I mean, he's looked at as this kind of irritable guy, and but I think he's very intelligent, and he has a really sharp sense of humor. And I think sometimes people forget how funny parts of The Wall were. And then also for Ummagumma, he has a song called "Several Species of Small Furry Animals Gathered Together in a Cave and Grooving with a Pick." I mean, that's. So I think the album definitely, it suffers from him not being on it. I don't think it's a significant a record as any of the ones before it. I mean, like when The Wall came out, that was like a big event. I remember when The Wall came out, just being like blown away by it. And I don't know, this just doesn't have I just don't think it's as good as most of the Roger Waters Pink Floyd albums. I have grown to like it a little bit better as of late. I think all I was familiar with for years was side one. And then recently I started listening to side two and I realized it wasn't really that bad. But it's more, side two is more kind of like background music. A lot of it's instrumental, and it doesn't really, to me, it doesn't stick as much, but I think it makes good background music. And, I have a radio show in which half my show is background music. So I think I've developed an appreciation for it, but I just don't feel like it's as significant and important as the stuff with Roger Waters. The songs I like on side one, One Slip, I think that's probably my favorite song. I really like that one. And On the Turning Away sounds like something that could have been off The Wall, or the final cut with the organ and the guitar solo and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's a pretty good song. And then side two, he has those two like spoken word pieces that A New Machine Part 1 and 2, and I think that's crap. I just but the rest of it is not bad. And I was listening to the instrumental Terminal Frost, and I was thinking that's actually not a bad instrumental, and so I think my opinion has it's softened. I think I think better of it now than I did when I first came out, and I still think it's the worst Pink Floyd album. But I have become to appreciate it a little bit better, and I think for an 80s album, production-wise, it actually has stood up pretty well.
It's Bob Ezrin, for God's sake.
I think that it still sounds good. Mm-hmm. There just wasn't really too much input from the other Pink Floyd members. Rick Wright was brought in at the end, and Nick Mason, he was in charge of the sound effects, but most of the drumming was done by I think Carmine Appice or somebody else.
Probably Simon Phillips, maybe.
Yeah. And but I guess I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 because even though it's my least favorite Pink Floyd album, and yes, I do like the final cut better, and it suffers from not having Roger Waters there, because Waters just had he just had that something, and I don't like it as much as David Gilmour's solo albums, his first one and About Face. I like it better than any of Roger Waters' solo albums. I don't really like Roger Waters' solo. Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking, Radio Chaos, Used to Death. I think that he needed Pink Floyd more than they needed him.
It was the combination of all four of those guys together. Without someone in the mix, if you didn't have Rick Wright, then you're screwed. They needed everybody there. Yeah, somehow they were able to function without Syd Barrett. I don't know how that was able to happen, but they were.
And having been in a group, even though like a lot of the songs are credited to Roger Waters, I'm sure the other band members had a say in the arrangements and stuff. And that's what, it was the other band members' input that made it Pink Floyd. Even though I said that Roger Waters dominated the songwriting, the others just didn't exactly sit around to do nothing. It's like
they did a lot. They did a lot.
Yeah. And I even think that, even the final cut, you can still tell that David Gilmour was involved, and then Nick Mason was a little bit more involved with that album than he was The Wall.
Well, you know what's funny? You know, they fired Rick Wright, but then you get Nick Mason not doing a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah.
But we keep Nick in there. Yeah. I don't know. There was so much drama in Pink Floyd. We will never really know what's going on here.
Yeah.
I think it's all fascinating, but.
Well, you know, and recently I heard this thing about that Roger Waters is disputing Bob Ezrin's claim that the solo for Comfortably Numb was done in one take, when and Roger Waters said it was actually done it was taken from several takes, kind of pieced together. And actually David Gilmour himself said that. I remember reading that he said that solo consisted of several solos that he did, just kind of, you know, he took the best parts of them. But I think the whole debate is like, it's stupid. It's like, who cares how it was made? It's just it's the results that matter. And I think it's a great solo. I don't care, you know, if it was 20 guitar solos taped together to make one great, you know, whatever it takes, you know.
Rich, those hardcore Pink Floyd fans care. They care.
Yeah, well.
But if you think about it, you say how all those guitar leads were all put together. You know, that's how they did Eddie Van Halen's leads.
Yeah.
He would just play, and then they'd have to put them together, and he'd have to relearn them.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd just say, roll it again, and they just keep doing another solo, and then they comp them all. Yeah.
And it was like hard for Eddie to play them because some of these were like pretty out there. So once you added them and put them together, it's like, oh my God, can I even play this?
Yeah, sometimes I think it's really not. It's really the results that matter. It doesn't matter like how something was put together. If it sounds good, it just sounds good. And then
I agree.
Who cares how they made it sound like that? It's like it's the result that really, you know, the end result is the most important thing, I think. So I said I give it a 6 out of 10.
All right, cool.
A while ago, I probably would have given it like a 4 out of 10, but my view is softened towards it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got 2 6s for this particular record. All right, well, that's not bad. See, this might be a dark horse record after all. But we're going to throw it over to Butch and see what Butch has to say. Butch may tear this thing apart. He might give it like a 1 or a 2. So I can hardly wait to see what Butch has to say. Butch, carry it away. You're up next.
Well, I was a little bit late to Pink Floyd. I knew who they were when I was in high school. I probably said this on the show a million times before, but I was really mainly a metalhead through my teen years, throughout the 80s. I did like Pink Floyd. I just didn't know that much about them, or I hadn't really delved too much into their records. I think I had The Wall, and it wasn't until later in like the mid 80s that I heard some of the other records like Saucer Full of Secrets and these kind of, even Dark Side of the Moon all the way through. I knew it was on the radio. I had The Wall, and so I kind of came into this record like already like I wasn't like, I liked Pink Floyd. I didn't know a ton about them. And again, my exposure to this record started with just with what I heard on the radio, which was Learning to Fly, which I thought was okay. I mean, it doesn't have the thing about this record, like now, years down the road, is I feel the record doesn't have the weightiness, I guess, of the bulk of the Pink Floyd, the stuff from Saucerful up through the final cut. There's like an edge, or it's not. I don't find this record to be like lightweight, so to speak, but it's kind of like a kinder, gentler Pink Floyd. It's kind of like rounded off at the edges a little bit.
I agree.
Obviously, with what everyone said, Roger missing from the band was obviously a big part of that. There was no counterbalance to what Gilmour was doing. I like the record. It's kind of like, side one is fairly poppy, really. Learning to Fly and One Slip are pretty commercial, I think, for Pink Floyd. And very 80s sounding. Good songs, but you know, and it certainly weren't as commercial as like Genesis got to be in the 80s, for example. But it was still, this is a different creature than we've seen from Pink Floyd was accidentally commercial in the past, whereas now this seems more purposefully kind of like radio ready or whatever. Dogs of War is really, I think, like the closest thing to, I put down in my notes, it's kind of like this is kind of like the analog to Welcome to the Machine almost. It's kind of like that creepy, kind of just out there, kind of more spacey, kind of darker thing on the first side of the record. I love On the Turning Away. When I first heard that on the radio, first of all, I love the Celtic vibe to the song and to the vocal line. I think it's brilliant. And his guitar solo on that song is like amazing. And when I really like fell back and revisited this record was I bought the live one, and what the hell is the title of that?
Delicate Sound of Thunder? Is that
it? I'm an idiot. The Delicate Sound of Thunder. Like I played the shit out of that when I was in high school, and like some of these songs like came off better on the Turning Away on there, and then you know, we'll get to it, but Sorrow I think is amazing.
Sorrow. Yeah.
The guitar work on those two songs, on the Turning Away and Sorrow, is like some of the best I think Gilmour ever did. Like just amazing guitar work, amazing songs for me. Side 2 is cool. It's not, I don't think it's so much that it's filler. It's just kind of like, I don't know. It's like trying to be, it's maybe trying a little bit too hard to, you know, side 1 is maybe more commercial and side 2 is maybe just the trying too hard to be Pink Floyd kind of thing. It has its moments of like,
it's forced.
It's forced,
I mean,
for sure.
Terminal Frost I think is great, but it's kind of like, it's got like a jazzy, soulful kind of thing that I think is pretty cool. Yet Another Movie I think is interesting because I hadn't listened to this record in a while, and when I was revisiting it, it kind of like caught me that I feel like that song has almost this is going to sound weird, but it almost has like a goth rock kind of vibe to it in a way. There's something about it that had me thinking of like Typo Negative or, you know, Fields of the Nephilim or the Cure. I don't know why it hit me that way. Overall, though, I think the record's good. I mean, honestly, like I'm probably going to get killed for this one, but if I were to choose between listening to this album or listening to Piper at the Gates of Dawn, I would.
Oh God! Well, all right. Be careful, Butch. Careful, Butch. Careful.
Let me clarify. This is not to take away from the genius that is Piper at the Gates of Dawn or its importance. But if I'm going to listen to a record, I'd probably like reach for this one before I listen to Piper. I'm more of an after Sid kind of Pink Floyd guy than a with Sid Pink Floyd guy. I'm
having an aneurysm.
It'll be okay.
I'll be okay.
I give the record about a 6 out of 10. I'm with the other guys. So that's
you guys are all the same.
Wow.
I mean, it's a good. Here's the thing. Like, it's a good record to me. It's like I would never reach for this one before I would reach for everything from Saucerful up through the final cut. I don't know where I put it in terms of the division bell, or I'm not familiar enough with.
Well, we're not looking at those. So
I know, but I'm just saying, like, as far as where I'd place it, like it's towards the bottom, but it's not. Like I like all the Pink Floyd records, so it's not like a bad thing. It just
it's still above average, right?
Yeah,
it's better than Piper.
Well, and enough. There's a song I heard around the time that I don't really care for the rest of the album as much, but I thought there was a song by Peter Bardens that came out around the same time called In Dreams that I thought sounded more like Pink Floyd than a lot of the stuff on the Pink Floyd record sounded. But anyway, that's my take on it. 6 out of 10. It's a good, solid record. I don't listen to it that often. Generally, you're going to find me listen to Saucerful or Atom Heart Mother. But it's good stuff.
Yeah,
I think for, considering when it came out, people were hungry for Pink Floyd product. I think that it filled that void. Yeah, is it as good as what came before?
Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
It's not, but it's not embarrassing either.
It's not embarrassing.
Right. Exactly.
There's only a few things I hate on it. Actually, I hate The Dogs of War. I think that song is terrible.
Really?
That's like my least favorite Pink Floyd song.
Wow.
And also, that A New Machine parts 1 and 2. I think the record could have been a lot better without those. It's like, I don't know. Well, one thing I liked about The Wall as compared to this is like they weren't afraid not to sound like Pink Floyd on that, and I think that was something that Nick Mason and David Gilmour agreed with Roger Waters. He said the worst thing to be is to, trying to sound like Pink Floyd. And I feel like on The Wall, they just broke down all the barriers and said, this is going to sound the way it is, even if it doesn't sound like Pink Floyd. This is how it's going to be. And
but if you listen to The Wall, I hear what you're saying, Rich.
Yeah.
But if you listen to The Wall, it sounds like Pink Floyd to me.
Yeah. But,
it's not forced. It's just where they were at that time.
Yeah. And I think they took a lot of chances with that,
I agree.
Like another Brick in the Wall Part 2, and
there's a lot of disco on it, but it was of the time.
And The Trial, The Trial is hilarious. They never did anything like that before, and I think that song's incredible. And
between us, I think The Wall's brilliant.
Oh,
I love The Wall. I can listen to The Wall. Some people don't like The Wall. Some people think, just give me Dark Side or Wish You Were Here. Animals. Well, I think Animals. Well, I like that remix of Animals. That's a whole other show. But I really love The Wall. I really think it's brilliant.
Yeah, I agree.
Album, well executed. The Bob Ezrin as a producer, brilliant. I could see why they would bring Bob back for this other record.
Yeah.
No, I think that The Wall. I agree with you guys. I think The Wall's a brilliant piece of work. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. What's not to like about The Wall?
Yeah, and I love In the Flesh. I love the riff for that. That is just so. That's like Pink Floyd at their heaviest, Except for maybe not now, John. But I love that riff to it. I think it's amazing, And I remember there was one kid who we grew up with who liked the song Mother just because of that line, Mother, do you think they'll try to break my balls? And he thought the song was cool because of that. So I can imagine him putting that on a tape loop and I got to keep listening to that, but anyhow.
You know an album that really has gotten, we're getting way off topic now, but an album that I keep going back to Floyd wise is Adam Hart Mother.
That's a great record.
I like that album.
I love that record. I don't know what it is about that album.
He loves that one.
Who does?
Butch.
I didn't.
Butch loves it.
Nice.
That whole first side is tremendous.
Brilliant.
So cool.
Yeah, I thought they worked really well. Out of all the bands like using orchestras at the time, I think Pink Floyd did it the best for Adam Hart Mother.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I think Yes did it for like Time and a Word, and I didn't really like it. And then Uriah Heep did it for Salisbury. Deep Purple did it for music for group and concerto. And I think Pink Floyd did it best. Even though I think the members of Pink Floyd don't like that album very much.
Yeah, whatever. It didn't.
Really underrated record.
Think about it. If Adam Hart Mother went quadruple platinum, they would say something different. It's like Kiss. If the album sold a ton, Paul Stanley would go, well, that's one of our best records.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing.
It's all about the revenue.
It's all bull. It's all bull. It's all about money.
Yeah.
Look at Momentary Lapse. It's about, I'm sure Nick Mason needed money at this point. Well, he was buying a lot of sports cars. I don't know. Maybe he had tons of dough. I don't know. But it's been a lapse between the last record. Let's say that.
Yes.
Time to get the wheels moving, gentlemen. Let's see if we can generate some income. So,
did you guys hear the album that Nick Mason did with, I think, Rick Fenn called Profiles?
I've got that on vinyl.
Yeah, Dave Gilmour sings on a song for that called "Lie for a Lie," and that's a really good song.
Yeah.
No one ever brings that record. No one really talks about that solo Pink Floyd catalog, like Nick Mason stuff, and you never really hear much about that.
Is an insane record. That is just and I love Rick Wright's Wet Dream album.
That's a great record. I love that album.
I was wondering whether I should pick that up. I had never heard it, and I loved it with the band, so I was thinking of picking that record up.
It's really mellow, but if you're in the right mood, it's perfect.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound anything like anything that Pink Floyd was doing at the time. And I think you can understand, like, listening to that album, why he wasn't maybe as involved with The Wall, because it wasn't the kind of music that he liked as much. You know, I
Yeah.
think that Wet Dream was more laid back and jazzy, and that Pink Floyd were not. That wasn't what Pink Floyd were doing at the time. You know, so
I get it.
Yeah.
But wasn't Pink Floyd pretty much dysfunctional around Wish You Were Here? Isn't that where everything started to fall apart?
Yeah.
It started then, yeah.
They became more of a business as opposed to a band. You know, if you look at Dark Side, you can tell that's totally a band effort. For a band being in a mess, I'm always amazed how well the Wall turned out.
Yeah.
Because you really can't detect it, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Apparently, Gilmour was getting frustrated during the Wall. That was his frustration level was getting high during that because he was pushing for things and Roger would push back, and they were fighting a lot over musical stuff. So
yeah, well,
and that's why he had to bring Ezrin in to referee between those two.
Right.
I think Ezrin was probably a good guy to bring in.
Yeah,
because he's just going to go, no, this is a bad idea. We're going to go with this.
And I think Roger Waters said to Bob Ezrin, "You can write as much as you want, just don't expect to get credit for it."
Yeah, he did.
And Bob Ezrin ended up getting one writing credit on the album. That was for the Trial.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess there's something on side 3 which is said that it was completely a Bob Ezrin song, and it was credited to Waters. It was I can't even remember the name.
Oh God, did you just see what happened? Watch this. Watch this when I do this. Watch. Hold tight.
Oh, that's so cool.
I just figured this out. It's been doing it. We've been doing a lot of these shows. One day, I don't want to derail, but I don't know if you guys can do it, but if you hold up your thumb, weird. It's weird. I don't know what's happening.
Must be in the Ohio water.
Do you think it is? It might be.
It's not working for me.
I'm not going to try it.
It's not doing it.
I'm not feeling very.
There it goes. So weird. Anyway, well, I guess we can wrap this one up, but the average here is a 6 out of 10. And I'm going to be the official. Is this a dark horse record? Well, I would say a 6 out of 10. Look, I'm going to say it is. I think that classifies. I think all these gentlemen here said, well, you know, if you want to venture out into the Pink Floyd catalog, even though you haven't heard Momentary, go out and check it out and make that decision for yourself. In fact, anybody in the comments, please let us know your thoughts on Momentary Lapse of Reason. I mean, I still think that some people think this isn't a Pink Floyd album, and then some people think it is.
Well, I can understand.
We're going to get ripped. We're going to get ripped so bad. People are going to be like, "That's 6 out of 10. Are you kidding me?"
No, man. The contrarian crowd, all of our followers are good. I think everybody's pretty open.
I got really ripped upon when I gave a Judas Priest album a 0 out of 10.
Well, you got to watch what you're talking about, Rich. You know, Judas you can't rip.
Oh, you should have seen the nasty comments I got, but it was just like,
which one was it?
Which one?
Jugulator.
Oh, the Jugulator episode.
I'm surprised you got ripped for that. That's not a good record.
People hated me for giving it a 0 out of 10. But it was like, well, I
remember that now.
Yeah.
Hey, you've got to be truthful to yourself.
Yeah, well, yeah,
if you're doing a review, you've got to be honest.
Got to go with your heart, man. You got to go with your heart.
Yeah.
And hey, one last thing I want to say before I forget. I forgot I was going to say this during my thing was that I did see Floyd at Giant Stadium for the Momentary Lapse tour, and it was like one of my first big huge shows, and I'm telling you, man, people, I mean, maybe it was just the right record at the right time, but people were kind of going nuts for the new material. I mean, I remember the crowd was like loving all the new songs. I mean, they played a few classics at the end, but people were pretty psyched with the new stuff. So I don't know.
Well, during that tour, they played in Ohio at Ohio State campus. They played at the Shoe, and they hadn't had a concert there in years, but I think it sold out. I sat on the lawn and listened to them. You know, I was like, I'm not going to pay the money to go sit in the seat and can't see them. So I sat on the lawn. I'll tell you, no Roger Waters, but Pink Floyd sounded great. It sounded like Pink Floyd.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
And people dug it. It was great. It was a nice, the feeling in the air was just wonderful. It's like they're back. We love it. We miss
like you
Roger,
said,
but
people wanted Pink Floyd back, like you said. Yeah.
And by 87, it was big time.
Yeah.
Big time. So, you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
I mean, and the album sold really, really well. So, I mean, it went, at least platinum or double platinum. I mean,
Oh, yeah, it sold.
It sold really well. It was,
It sold enough for them to continue on and made more records. So let's.
Right. Well, yeah.
I mean, they were playing stadiums, so I mean,
yeah.
And Roger Waters. Roger Waters was probably ticked off because he couldn't play stadiums because his stuff wasn't as popular. It's like
this was 4 times platinum here in the States.
Yeah. Roger said, "I'm competing with myself and losing."
We're losing.
It's his quote.
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't get arrested with those records. I don't think did any of those even certify.
I don't
know.
I don't know.
I don't think they did.
Pros and Cons didn't do anything.
Yeah, I think Radio Chaos probably did even less.
Yeah.
Radio Chaos is one of those records. It's kind of, I appreciate it for what it is, but boys, it sound 80s.
Oh, it's bad.
I think that's
80s production. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Roger Waters, he later regretted trying to make it sound more contemporary and more 80s. So, yeah. And
you almost can't listen to it now.
Yeah.
But whatever. It's Roger Waters is brilliant.
Yeah. But
good concept. Good. Once again, a great concept.
A great concept. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. For him, it was all concept and just not enough music.
Yeah, I get it. All right, boys, let's wrap this dog up. I'm going to officially certify this a Dark Horse record. It's right on the fringe, but we can recommend, go out and check it out. Let us know what your comments are. I mean, if you're a Pink Floyd fan, you probably already know this record. But yeah, we do want to hear from you. Please like, subscribe. We do have a Patreon account if you'd like to join these conversations. And it's just a great community. And, this is how I started, for God's sakes, kids. So we have Patreon. We do have a Ko-fi account. If you want to buy us a pint or buy us a cup of coffee, we'd love to hear it. We also like donos. So if you want to give us a donation, we do this out of the kindness of our hearts. And we just love music. So we're like music addicts here. So we're just producing
nerds.
This. If you nerds, you're right. But anyway, I want to thank the panel and thank Butch, Rich, and Tom for coming on tonight. Such a great discussion.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Go out and listen to Momentary Lapse of Reason and check in with us and let us know what you think. There you go. Thanks for the props. But let us know what you think. Is this a Pink Floyd album or not? For God's sakes. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next one, and have a good night. And what's next on the channel? God, just keep tuning in. There's more great stuff on the way. All right, everybody. We'll see you, and take care.
Yep, you too.